I guess it's only fair to start with this. I never considered myself better than my brother. Not until they made me feel like I was just a backup plan, a wallet, a tool, a punchline. We grew up in the same house, with the same parents, the same opportunities. But we made very different choices. I was the studious one. Always had my nose in a book, always planning my next step. I worked 2 part-time jobs through college just to avoid debt. Graduated early, landed a solid job in IT, moved to a decent city, and started saving like crazy. My dream was simple: travel the world before settling down. Just me, a backpack, and a one-way ticket to anywhere. My younger brother, Adam, was the opposite. More charming, more impulsive. Dropped out of college after 2 semesters. Got married at 24 to a woman named Casey, who thought TikTok was a career and lived on Instagram stories like they were scripture. He bounced between jobs, borrowed from our parents often, and somehow always had the latest iPhone and designer sneakers. Despite everything, I loved my family. I really did. I didn't mind being the one who had it together. I liked helping when I could. At least, I thought I did. The first sign of trouble came after my mom had minor surgery. She called me crying one night, asking if I could come stay with them for a few weeks to help out, drive her to appointments, cook meals, just be there. I hesitated. I had just put down a deposit for a 3-month backpacking trip across Asia. But when your mom cries, you cancel flights. That was the first sacrifice. It wouldn't be the last. Helping mom felt good at first. After years of being the busy one, focused on work and saving for my dreams, I finally got to slow down and spend some real time with her. She was still her stubborn self, but seeing her laugh over silly stories I told, or the way her eyes lit up when I made her a cup of tea, made all those sacrifices feel worthwhile. Dad, on the other hand, was never one to wear his emotions on his sleeve. He wasn't the type to say thank you often or hug you just because, but I could tell from the quiet way he watched me help out around the house. The way he lingered in the doorway with a soft smile when I fixed the leaky faucet or reminded Mom about her meds, that he was relieved to have someone dependable nearby. Someone who didn't burn toast or forget doctor's appointments like I'm sure he or Mom felt when they were younger. But just as Mom's health started to stabilize and the house returned to its usual rhythm, my phone rang. It was Adam. "Hey man," he said with that overly casual, "I'm about to ask you for a favor," tone he perfected over the years. Casey and I are kinda in a bind right now. Her car's in the shop, and I just started this new gig, so we're short on cash. Think you could help us out with rent this month? Just until we get back on our feet. Honestly, I didn't hesitate. It felt like the right thing to do. Family helps family, right? I wired the money that night, without a second thought. I told myself this was just a one-time thing. A little hiccup on the road. Spoiler alert, it was not. What followed was a seemingly endless string of emergencies disguised as urgent phone calls and half-truths. A tire blew out here, a utility bill got missed there, or there was some can't-miss business opportunity Casey was convinced would change their lives. A dropshipping scheme she picked up from some influencer on YouTube. I was constantly patching holes, trying to keep the roof from falling in. I told myself I was being a good brother. I even kept a spreadsheet to keep track of every dollar I sent their way, promising myself I'd ask for it back someday, when things finally stabilized for them. But the truth was, they never stabilized. The requests just kept coming. And every time, they grew more frequent, more urgent, and wrapped in emotional guilt that was harder to ignore. "You know Adam would do the same for you, right?" Mom once said, as if reminding me of some unspoken family contract. Would he? I wasn't so sure anymore. Meanwhile, my own life started to suffer. My carefully planned travel dreams, the ones I'd mapped out for years, were reduced to bookmarked tabs on my laptop, reminders of freedom I kept postponing. My savings account was bleeding slowly and quietly, like a wound I refused to acknowledge, draining away while I prioritized everyone else's needs over my own. But through it all, I kept helping. Because that's what family does, isn't it? You give, you sacrifice, you put your own dreams on hold for the people you love. Until the day I arrived unannounced and accidentally overheard exactly what they really thought of me. It happened on a gray Thursday afternoon. I had taken a few days off work and decided to drive back to my parents' place early. They thought I was coming Friday night, but I figured I'd surprise them. Maybe take Mom out to lunch, bring Dad some of those peanut butter cookies he likes. I parked in the driveway and noticed Adam's car was already there. Strange. He usually didn't show up during the day. I walked in through the side door like I always did, quietly, not wanting to wake anyone in case they were napping. But they were very much awake. Voices drifted from the kitchen. I recognized Adam's laugh first. Then Casey's sharper, higher-pitched giggle. I froze just before the hallway opened up to the kitchen, something instinctively telling me not to walk in just yet. And then I heard it. I swear, I could tell him the moon is made of cheese and he'd believe it. As long as I throw in a sad story. Casey's voice. I know. Adam snorted. He wired us $500 last month because I told him our cat needed surgery. We don't even have a cat anymore. They both burst out laughing. He's just so desperate to be the hero. Like he gets off on being the responsible one or something. Casey said, almost sneering. It's honestly pathetic. That word hit me in the chest like a brick. Pathetic. Let him keep paying, Adam added. It's not like he's using the money. He still lives like a college student. Who saves that much and never goes anywhere? Exactly, Casey agreed. If he were smart, he'd realize nobody's ever gonna thank him. But hey, long as the check's clear. My legs locked. My face was hot. My ears rang. I stood there for another minute, silent, until I heard them open a soda and change the topic to some concert they were going to that weekend, presumably on my dime. That was the moment something inside me broke. Not just anger, something deeper. I backed out of that hallway as quietly as I could, careful not to make a sound that would give away my presence. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it might burst through my chest. I slipped out through the side door and climbed into my car, shutting the door softly behind me. My hands clenched the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, and I just sat there in the silence, stunned. They were laughing at me, not just using me or taking advantage of my kindness. They were mocking me, like I was some clueless fool, dancing on a string, their personal punchline and ATM all rolled into one. The realization hit me like a gut punch I never saw coming. I wanted to scream, to yell, to break something. But I didn't. I just sat there, frozen and silent, my mind spinning. No tears came. No shouts or tears. Just a cold, crushing stillness that wrapped around me like a heavy fog. After what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, I turned the key in the ignition, backed out of the driveway, and drove without a destination in mind. Eventually, I found myself at a rundown motel on the edge of town, the kind of place with flickering neon signs and cracked pavement. I checked in, told the clerk I'd be staying a few nights, and locked myself in the small, sterile room. I ignored the flood of texts from Mom asking where I was, why I hadn't come home. I didn't answer Adam's calls later that night or the next day. I couldn't trust myself to speak without letting the rage spill out in ways I'd regret. Instead, I pulled out my laptop and opened the spreadsheet I'd kept, the meticulous record of every dollar, every date, every emergency reason I'd been given. It wasn't just a spreadsheet anymore. It was a testament. Over $18,000 in the past 3 years alone. $18,000. And what had I gotten in return? Jokes behind my back. Sneers about how I lived my life. The sting of betrayal thicker than any wound. That night, sleep eluded me. I sat in the dim motel room, staring at the ceiling, haunted by memories. Every time I'd canceled a trip to help someone in the family, every moment I'd postponed buying something for myself, every sacrifice, especially the time I drained half my savings to cover Adam's medical bills. The kicker? A mutual friend had told me later he never even set foot in a hospital. They didn't love me. They loved what I gave them. That cold truth settled deep inside me, and something clicked. It wasn't anger or despair that bubbled up. It was clarity. I realized I wasn't going to explode or lash out in some blind fury. That wouldn't fix anything. No, I was going to teach them a lesson. Slowly, deliberately, and without mercy. One by one. The next morning, I checked out of the motel, grabbed some coffee, and drove back home without saying a word to anyone. My phone had over a dozen missed calls and messages. Mom asking where I was. Adam saying something about miscommunication. Casey pretending she wanted to show me a new recipe. I didn't respond. Instead, I spent that weekend doing something I hadn't done in years. I made a plan for me. But first came the setup. I knew if I cut everyone off immediately, they'd play the victim. They'd cry to extended family, twist the story, maybe even come knocking on my door pretending they were sorry just to keep the money flowing. No, I needed this to be clean, precise, and permanent. So I played along. That Monday, I called Adam and told him I was sorry for being off lately. Blamed it on work stress. He sounded relieved and a little too eager. Within minutes, he started hinting about needing help with a business opportunity again. Perfect. I told him I was finally ready to invest. Said I'd been thinking about the future and I wanted to help him build something sustainable. I even asked if he wanted to meet up in a few weeks to go over the plan. He bought it. Hook, line, and sinker. I did the same with my parents. Called Mom, told her I missed her, said I was thinking about taking some time off work to be closer to the family. She cried, said she was proud of me for always being the reliable one. That word again, reliable. Not loved, not respected, just useful. But that was fine. They had no idea what was coming. I was done being the backup plan. Now I was the one writing the script. Before I moved forward with anything, I needed more than just rage and wounded pride. I needed proof. Not for them. No, I didn't care about convincing them. But for me, I wanted to remember exactly who I was dealing with when I started cutting ties. So, I got clever. First, I created a new email address and used it to reach out to a private investigator I found through a friend in the legal field. Let's just say this guy had a reputation for uncovering a lot with very little. I asked him to dig into Adam and Casey, anything shady. I had a hunch the whole struggling couple act was just that, an act. Meanwhile, I started taking screenshots of every message Adam and Casey had ever sent me asking for money. I backed up voicemail recordings, text conversations, even old Venmo transactions where Adam jokingly wrote things like sucker tax and emergency beer fund in the notes. They thought they were being cute. But all of it became part of my digital folder titled The Cut. A week later, the PI got back to me. Turns out, while Adam was begging me for money to keep the lights on, he and Casey had taken a week-long vacation to Miami, complete with jet skis and bottle service. She posted it all on her close friends list on Instagram. He also apparently invested in some crypto pump-and-dump scheme and cashed out just before it tanked, never told anyone. Oh, and the medical bills I paid? Fake. Flat-out lie. He told a buddy from his gym that he made the whole story up to get my rich brother to shut up and pay for something useful. I stared at the screen for a long time after reading that. Then I smiled. Because now I wasn't just angry, I was focused. They built their comfort on lies. And I was going to pull the rug out from under every last one of them. Now that I had the proof, it was time to light the fuse. I invited the whole family over for dinner at my place. Adam, Casey, Mom, Dad, even Aunt June and Uncle Rick, who always acted like the family referees. I told them I had a big announcement and wanted everyone there. I made it sound like I was finally going to settle down or start a business, something juicy enough to reel them in. They all came, of course, like moths to a flame. Adam and Casey walked in smiling like they owned the place. Casey brought one of those awful store-bought cheesecakes and acted like she baked it. Mom hugged me too tightly. Dad gave me the usual grunt of approval. Everyone made themselves at home while I quietly prepared the final course. Not dessert, but something much sweeter. We ate, laughed, and I let them talk. Let them be comfortable. Adam even started pitching his latest opportunity, some ridiculous idea about flipping used e-bikes. I nodded along, pretending to listen. Then I tapped my glass and stood up. Before we wrap up, I just want to thank everyone for coming, I said. And since we're all here, I thought this was a perfect time to share something important. I walked to the TV and pulled up a slideshow I'd prepared in advance. At first, it looked like a photo montage. Smiling pictures of family, travel shots I never got to take, images of me working, studying, saving. Then it shifted. Screenshots of texts from Adam. Can you float us $300 for rent? We're desperate, man. Emergency. Casey's mom is sick. We need help. The cat needs surgery. Then photos from Miami. Casey on a yacht. Adam in a nightclub. Champagne everywhere. Then voice recordings. Adam laughing, saying I believed whatever he told me. Casey calling me pathetic with that smug giggle. The room went still. Aunt June gasped. My mom looked like she was about to faint. And then I spoke. This is how you repay me, I said calmly. I gave up years of my life, my dreams, my money, because I thought that's what family does. But what I've learned is this. Family doesn't use you, lie to you, and laugh about it behind your back. Adam's face turned red. Casey looked like she wanted to melt into the carpet. Mom reached for me, stammering, but I held up a hand. I'm done being the reliable one. Starting tonight, the bank is closed. You could have heard a pin drop. Adam was the first to react, standing up so fast his chair scraped across the floor. This is messed up, man, he barked. You're gonna ambush us like this? In front of the whole family? I stayed calm. You mean, like how you ambushed me with lies for 3 years? Or how you laughed about it while taking my money for fake emergencies? Casey jumped in. You don't understand the pressure we're under. We're trying to build something. No, I cut her off. You're trying to build comfort off of my effort. Off my savings. Off my kindness. Mom finally found her voice. We're family. Families help each other. Maybe your brother made mistakes, but airing it out like this is cruel. I turned to her, and for the first time in my life, I didn't soften my tone. What's cruel is watching me drain my future while no one said a word. What's cruel is being praised for being reliable, while everyone was happy to watch me fall behind so Adam could post yacht photos. You knew something was off, Mom. You just didn't want to ask. She didn't reply. Uncle Rick stood awkwardly, muttered something about needing air. Aunt June looked at me with a mix of shock and, I swear, a bit of admiration. Dad, silent as always, but he didn't look at me once. That said enough. Adam tried to play victim. So what now? You just cut us off? Act like we're nothing? I stared him dead in the eye. No, I'm just treating you the way you treated me. Like I don't matter. Then I handed everyone a folder. Inside was a copy of every financial transaction I had ever made for Adam and Casey. Every loan, every fake story, every manipulated moment. This is your debt record, I said. I don't expect to be repaid, but I want you to remember it. Casey threw hers on the table and stormed out. Adam followed, mumbling something under his breath. The rest of the family left soon after, avoiding eye contact like it was poison. I stood alone in my kitchen, the slideshow still frozen on the screen behind me. I felt no regret, only clarity. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. I half expected my phone to blow up with angry messages, guilt trips, or some kind of group family intervention, but no, just silence. Like I'd become radioactive overnight. Which, honestly, was fine by me. But the silence didn't last long. By the end of the week, the shockwaves started spreading. First, I got a call from Aunt June. I know it's not my place, she said carefully, but I just want to say, I think you did the right thing. Brutal, but right. Someone had to say it. Then came a text from one of Adam's old friends, Mike. We weren't close, but he'd always seemed like a decent guy. His message? Bro, I had no idea they were milking you like that. I thought you were helping out because you were just super generous. They told everyone you were a silent investor in their projects. Casey said you were basically a shareholder. A shareholder? In what? Their laziness? Then I got an email from my old college buddy Josh, who'd run into Adam at a bar. Apparently, Adam was telling people I'd lost it and was cutting off the whole family for attention. So be it. I didn't respond. I didn't need to explain myself anymore. The truth had been laid bare. If people wanted to believe a fantasy version of the story to protect their own guilt or pride, that was their business, not mine. Meanwhile, I was working on phase 2. See, revenge isn't just about exposure. Sometimes the loudest revenge is reclaiming your own life. And I was finally ready to take mine back. The first thing I did? I booked a flight. One way. Tokyo. I dreamed of going for years. I used to watch travel vlogs at 2 a.m. while I sat at my desk crunching numbers and wiring rent money to my brother. I told myself, one day. But one day never came, because someone always needed something more urgent. But now, there were no more requests. No more emergencies. No more excuses. Just me and a suddenly wide-open life. I used the next 2 weeks to prepare. I gave notice at work, cashed in my saved vacation time, and sold off stuff I didn't need. It felt symbolic, clearing out my apartment like I was sweeping away the last crumbs of the old me. The version of myself that bent until he nearly broke. I didn't tell anyone in the family I was leaving. Let them find out the way I found out about their betrayal, accidentally. But just before I boarded the plane, I left one final gift behind. I donated $5,000, the last amount I'd ever consider giving away, to a local charity that helps people escape toxic family situations and start fresh. In the memo line, I wrote, in honor of the people who taught me what not to become. Petty? Maybe, but deeply satisfying. And when that plane lifted off the runway and the city faded beneath me, I didn't feel guilt. I felt free. My sudden disappearance hit the family like a storm they weren't prepared for. Without my steady financial support, bills piled up fast. Adam called a few times, sounding panicked and desperate, but I just let them go to voicemail. Mom tried texting, begging, pleading, even guilt-tripping, but I didn't respond. I realized something important. When people only want you for what you can give, silence is sometimes the loudest message. I started getting updates through mutual friends. Adam and Casey's business was crashing without my help. They were behind on rent, phones were being cut off, and the social media posts stopped. The glamorous image they'd painted was unraveling fast. Mom and Dad were quieter now. No more calls. No more reliable demands. It was like my absence created a vacuum that sucked all the noise away. Honestly, part of me felt a strange peace. The family that used me was finally facing consequences. Not from me directly, but from their own choices. At the same time, I knew this wasn't the end. Real wounds take time to heal, and some bridges burn too far to cross again. But for now, I was far away, breathing in new air, and living the life I'd postponed for too long. Weeks passed, and while I explored cities I once only dreamed about, I kept an eye on my phone, but not for family. One evening, I got a message from my mom. It wasn't an apology, not exactly. It was more like a fragile olive branch. "We miss you. We're sorry it took this long to see how much you gave. Please be safe." I read it twice. For a moment, I almost responded. Almost said something like, "It's okay. I forgive you." But I didn't. Instead, I typed back, "I hope you find a way to rebuild, with honesty. That's the only way forward." I knew the truth. I might never fully repair those broken bonds. Maybe someday. Maybe not. But what mattered most was that I finally put myself first. A few months later, I got a call from Adam. His voice was quieter, less cocky than I remembered. I screwed up," he said. "Casey and I are dealing with the fallout. We lost a lot, and I just wanted to say sorry. I was wrong." I paused. For years, I'd wanted this moment, an apology, an acknowledgement. But hearing it now felt strange, almost surreal. I told him, "I appreciate that, Adam. But I've moved on. I hope you can too." We ended the call with an uneasy kind of peace. No promises to rebuild, no empty hopes. Just a recognition that some things can't go back to the way they were. And that sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all, it's letting go. Looking back on everything, I realized this experience changed me more than I expected. I learned that being family doesn't mean sacrificing your entire life for people who won't respect you. It means knowing when to give and when to protect yourself. I also learned that kindness should never be a weakness or a transaction. True generosity is given without strings, but it's also okay to set boundaries and say no. Most importantly, I learned that sometimes the hardest person to stand up to is the one who's supposed to have your back. If I could offer one piece of advice to anyone feeling trapped in similar family dynamics, it would be this. Love yourself enough to walk away from those who take you for granted. Because at the end of the day, your peace is worth more than anyone's approval. Now, as I sit in a small cafe in Kyoto, sipping green tea and watching the world move around me, I feel something I haven't in years: freedom. I'm finally living the life I dreamed about when I was younger. Traveling, exploring, making memories on my own terms. My family, they're still out there, living their lives without me. And that's okay. I'm not the reliable one anymore. I'm just me. And that, after everything, feels like the greatest revenge of all.